Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to Hump Day.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
That's right, folks. Today is the day in which we attempt to begin the weekend, sometimes with success, sometimes not. But as I always like to say, the fun is all in the trying. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. I'm here just having a good time. Unfortunately, Mr. Pilwarski has gotten pulled away once again for today, but that's all right. Because we're here, I'm here, you're here. We're going to have a good do our thing. We're going to get down with the get down. We're going to talk about the news. We're going to talk about, whatever's going on today. But before we do, you know what we've got to do. And that is, we got to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start off with Hitman Industries. If you're looking for a rifle or pistol length barrel, I can't think of any better place for you to go to than Hitman Industries, hitmanindustries.net. If you are a first responder and have never purchased from them before, well, guess what? You're going to get a discount. So check them out today. Once again, hitmanindustries.net. Then you've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Check them out at cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, join CRA. And then we've got Hawg Holsters, that's H-A-W-G Holsters, helping Americans wear guns. Just go to hogholsters.com and you will find the leading concealed carry and tactical holsters available on the market. And if you use the discount code, the Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word, you can get a discount on us. That's hogholsters.com. Finally, the shipping, great prices, excellent selection. Check them out today. Once again, uscombatgear.com. And speaking of combat, there's a lot of combat that's about to be taking place in the state of California, or with the state of California, shall we say, because let's be honest. All right, let's just be real. Donald Trump is going to be the next president of the United States. Barring something happening and something happening to Donald Trump and him not being able to run, or Joe Biden, something happening to Joe Biden and someone markedly better who's actually not an actual Democrat running as a Democrat, Trump is going to be the nominee. I don't think there's any doubt that you want to know how liberal it is. There is a reason why I always say at the beginning of the show, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras, because that's kind of where the dividing line between Nevada and California, where Nevada ends and California starts, is in the Sierras. But yeah, it's really like living behind the Iron Curtain. I don't know if you remember a few years back, there was a red wave, and that red wave stopped right there at the Sierras, and California did not see the benefit of increasing Republican numbers in the state of California. In any case, there is an article that is out right now, and it was actually over at Politico, and it's talking about how California is preparing to deal with, or preparing for Trump 2.0. And I just realized I don't have it configured right. So I'm going to configure it for you right. And then I'm going to go ahead and open it up for you. Here it is. California is preparing to defend work against the former President Donald Trump in 2016 to 2020. Governor Gavin Newsom is readying an army of bureaucrats to defend the state's nation-leading climate policies against a potential second Trump administration. Newsom administration officials are keenly aware that that deep blue California is a prime target for former President Donald Trump's political diatribes and policy rollbacks, and they fully expect he'll resume his attacks on the Golden State if he wins in November. Trump campaign officials openly acknowledge that they plan to attack California policies, confirming to Politico this week that the state's electric vehicle programs could be a top target. They know the playbook, said Newsom at the recent signing of a climate change agreement with Sweden. We're definitely trying to future-proof California in every way, shape, and form. Now, I want you to understand when he talks about we're trying to, future-proof California, let's just be real. I want you to think about every issue that is a key issue right now and where you stand on those issues. If you believe in things like banning lawnmowers, banning people from being able to use their wood burning stoves. If you believe in banning people from being able to use their schools. If you believe in not arresting criminals and when they do commit a serious crime, letting them out without any bail. If you believe in open drug use in the public square. If you believe in illegal immigrants being able to rape women and being able to murder and kill people, including children. That's the future that he's talking about. That's the future that the actual decrease in population in the state. And that's because people don't want to live here. People do not want to live in the state of California. Well, let's put it this way. They are rushing to get out of the state of California because, well, they got issues with him. It's not just Gavin Newsom, because most of these policies are happening. They're passed by Democrats. They're passed by both houses of the California legislature. Well, if both houses of the California legislature are passing them, how can you blame them solely on Donald Trump? I mean, I keep saying to blame them on Donald Trump. How can you blame them solely on Marxists? Every single thing that they want, everything they ask for, he is giving them. And so, anyway, it's going to be quite interesting because. It's going to be interesting because in the end, the state of California is going to be in a different financial position than they were the last time Trump was president. They're going to be highly dependent on federal dollars, and they don't have that. They're going to try. Don't get me wrong. They're definitely going to try, but no, they don't really have the money to be making decisions like that. Here we have Valiant Thor, who's talking to us from over on YouTube. He says, Trump should let them seize the tower, refuse to move out, and be the biggest squatter in human history. Yep, to see him call him out on policies. And by the way, if Joe Biden can do all that he did with executive orders, why can't Trump? Why can't Trump just say, yeah, no, we're not going to give you any money? You decide you're going to violate federal law, you're going to ignore federal law, or you refuse to do your job and enforce the law, then we're not going to send you federal dollars. And I promise you right now, the state of California's government largely would fold. Yes, they would, because they don't have enough resources. This is, once again, in other words, what he's saying is that Gavin Newsom is saying they're going to be in open defiance of the law. They don't care what the law is. They don't care what's right. All they care about is doing what they want to do. And they're going to openly defy the law. So I'm looking forward to it. I live here in the state of California. I'm looking at the polls. And we'll start to see some sanity in government here in the state of California. I know that's something that we're not used to, but I think we can get it back. I think we can get folks there. Anyway, but he wants to advocate things like this, like white churches being called on to pay reparations. Now, this is not happening in California. This is actually occurring in what is actual you have Boston Christian leaders, and I don't know that I would call them Christian. I think they are of Christian denominations, but I would really, really, really love to see what they're preaching and where they believe that this is something that makes sense in a biblical sense. In any case, it says here, Boston Christian leaders call on white churches to dole out millions of dollars in reparations to black people to rectify their history. Quote, we call sincerely and with a heart-filled and faith and Christian love for our white churches to join us and not be silent about this issue of racism and slavery and commit to reparations. Reverend Kevin Peterson said at a recent event at Resurrection Lutheran Church, the Daily Mail reports. According to the Reverend, King's Chapel, Arlington Street Church, Trinity Church, and Old South Church must, quote, publicly atone for the sins of slavery and, quote, commit to a process of reparations due to hundreds of slaves being owned by their clergy and parishioners in the past. It says here they are extended. Where they will extend their great wealth, tens of millions of dollars among some of those churches, into the black community, Peterson said, adding that the letter signed by 16 clergy sent to named churches outlined their reparations plans. Now, once again, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what sense this makes. How exactly someone who runs a Christian church could consider this to be biblical. I'm having a real hard time. I don't know how to put this. I guess they're trying to lean on the whole concept of forgiveness, but the idea of forgiveness is, first of all, forgiveness is not about the person who needs. It's not about the person who needs forgiveness. It's about the person who is doing the forgiving, right? The idea of forgiveness is the idea that if I forgive, then I am no longer. So therefore, it puts me in a situation where I have been, what's the word I'm looking for? I have been relieved of that. I don't know, man. I got nothing. I cannot tell you why it is that they're trying to do this statement on this. And let's see if they give any reasons why they believe this actually makes sense.
We call on the white church in Boston to join us in supporting a black reparations movement.
Standing in solidarity, clergy leaders from across the city of Boston gathered for an interfaith, multiracial meeting at the Resurrection Lutheran Church in Roxbury, Nubian Square. They're here to ask the religious community
to get our check.
Organizers from the Boston People's Reparation Commission say they're also following up on their demand on the city of Boston for a $15 billion initial payout to begin the process towards repair and reconciliation to the city's black community.
Strengthening our financial institutions, creating a new black bank, $5 billion in terms of addressing issues of the education achievement gap between blacks and whites.
In 2022, the Boston City Council and Mayor Michelle Wu to study Boston's role in slavery and its long impact on descendants.
So we still suffer from the trauma of those instances, and even today, dealing with racism.
On Saturday, this group called on the white church in Boston to support the black community for its association in slavery.
Today we call upon this city, its financiers, and its white churches.
In conversation with white church leadership director.
Yeah, okay, so you notice the Word of God. These are supposed to be Christian pastors. The Word of God in the Bible was not mentioned one time. Not at all. No biblical. Just going to leave it at that. Valiant Thor says our tax dollars have given aid to the entire planet for decades. Will any country provide aid to the United States as we spiral into poverty? Mr. Thor, no, they will not. Because the reality is, and you're right about that, by the way, we pretty much foot the bill. One that we consider to be our allies. We provide more humanitarian aid than any other country, if not all of those countries combined, put together. The governing bodies, whether it be NATO or whether it be the UN, quaddiddly. They just don't. And I don't know what their dealio is, but let me clarify. I do know what their dealio is. The point is, we've been doing it, and so because we've been doing it, they feel like they don't have to do anything. Wish I could tell you that it was something better. But yeah, no, this whole idea of reparations, you know, I got to tell you, it's one of those things where quite able to take advantage of the opportunities that are available to them, if that makes sense. Have you ever had someone owe you money? Have you ever had someone owe you a lot of money? Did you just stop doing everything that you needed to do? Did you stop working? Did you then put all of your energy, all of your efforts into trying to get money from them? Trying to get that money? No. How are you going to decide who is going to receive and who is not? How are you going to figure out what the actual economic amount is and then figure out how that's going to be paid for? Because in the end, I'll be honest with you. The reason why reparations isn't going to happen, the number one reason why it's going to happen is for or against it you want. But the reality is they can't afford it. There's no way to afford it. And that's the only reason it's not happening, because when the left is in control, if the left could make it happen, they would make it happen. Trust me, because keep in mind, this is a constituency group that they need to win elections. And that's what that comes down to. And I kept saying the whole time, I'm like, they are not going to ever have the money to be able to afford. Anyway, $100 billion surplus, $90 billion surplus. That $90 billion surplus. Now we're running at a $73 billion deficit here in the state of California. Yeah, in 2 years, that's what it turned into. And by the way, that deficit is growing every month. But that's what happens. Talking about us, the taxpayers. We're the ones who wind up in debt because we're the ones that are going to wind up having to foot the bill for it. Anyway, that brings me to my next woke policy. U.S. intel agency afraid of being hurtful to terrorists. That's right, because they're afraid of using bad words and bad names that might actually hurt. Like, for example, when the president used the term illegal immigrant, well, you saw how he apologized through and through and walked it all back, despite the fact that there's a poll out that says the 70 to 75% of likely voters are okay with the use of the term illegal immigrant. In fact, some people they don't like the term illegal alien, right? But it's not politically correct. In any case, let's look at this story here. U.S. intel agency wants to ban terms radical Islamists and jihad because they are hurtful to Muslim Americans. Okay, let's see what they're saying here. It says the United States top intelligence agency wants to ban its spies from using biased language, including the terms radical Islamists and jihadists, saying these words are hurtful to Muslim Americans and detrimentally impact our efforts as they bolster extremist rhetoric. According to Language Guide published internally, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, which is responsible for handling the country's spy apparatus, seeks to ban a range of common terms because it says they offend Muslims and foment racism against employees. In addition to terms describing Islamic terrorists, ODNI instructs employees to avoid phrases such as blacklisted, cakewalk, brown bag, grandfathered, and sanity check. Blacklisted, for instance, implies black is bad and white is good. And while cakewalk is said to refer to a dance performed by slaves for slave owners on the plantation grounds, brown bag, a term often used to describe a paper bag that holds one's lunch, actually refers to the brown bag test practices in the 20th century within African American community. Internal magazine produced by the agency's Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Accessibility. Now, first of all, let me point out one thing. Yes, they still have an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And while corporations, right and left, are eliminating these departments because, well, let's just be honest, they tear down, they destroy diversity. They are not inclusionary at all, and they are very exclusionary. They are racist. These offices are radical jihadist. Radical extremist, right? Now, let's be real. There are a lot of Muslims out there who are not engaging in, who do not believe in Sharia law, who do not believe that plenty of Muslims who believe that women should be able to be educated and should be able to read. There are plenty of people who believe that those things or there are plenty of Muslims who are live and let live when it comes to Jews, right? But there are plenty of plenty of Muslims out there who are not, who do not represent those things, who don't want women to show their hair, who don't want women working outside of the home, who don't want women talking to men who are not to be driving, right? Their values on others. I can't think of a more appropriate term than a radical extremist. Are you trying to imply that they are mainstream Muslim? If you are not one of those, if you do not believe in those things, does that mean that you are not a mainstream Muslim? I don't know. I mean, come on, clarify this for me. Yes, they are extremists. And oh, by the way, if things that you are doing and the acts that you are committing are an act of jihad, then guess what you are? You're a jihadist. I don't get this. Why are we so against telling people what is? Why are we so against telling people the truth? I get it. You guys want to act like nobody on the like you want to add because they are people of color. But guess what? There are bad people of color. Just like you want to act like there are no good white people. No, there are good white people. They're not good because they're white. But I'm like, you are literally fomenting racism by trying to classify and clarify and put all of these things together, all based on the color of someone's skin. And you believe that because someone has darker skin, they are the oppressing someone else. You never even stop to think that maybe someone may be oppressing themselves. Don't think that's happening? You don't think that in Muslim nations that practice Sharia law that women are being oppressed? Really? You don't think that? Reality has not taught you that? Well, I wonder what kind of reality you are living in. I wonder what kind of reality you are walking in. It is not true reality. It's not the reality that most of us live in or walk in. And that's the four of words that, quite frankly, we as conservatives keep losing. And as a matter of fact, I had an op-ed piece that I was working on that people, they made it a point. There's times in which I use their terminology, and I'm getting in my mind to stop doing that. Don't let them change the terminology on you, right? Don't let them, get your word out. If you got your word out, you know what I'm talking about. But that's where we are right now. That's what they're trying to convince us of. And I'm done with it. I am not going to allow it to happen. I encourage you not to let it happen either. All right, our next story, the reality of the 97%. Now, you may not have heard of the 90s partisan media group talking about how to deal with solutions relating to quote unquote gun violence. I use quotes because I don't use their terminology, gun violence. There's no such thing as gun violence because a gun does not engage in violence. Individuals seeking to do harm to others utilize various different tools, sometimes including a firearm, in order to inflict violence upon others. So there's no such thing as gun violence. But there's an article there over at Bearing Arms. It's actually pointing to an article that's by our good friend Mr. Lee Williams over at Second Amendment Foundation. And he kind of points to investigations that he's done. He kind of wanted to point out a few facts that we know about, or that he's been able to uncover, and that if you don't know, then you should know about 97%. So it says here, 97%'s executive director Olivia Troyer said during a recent appearance on ABC's The View that her group's mission is to, quote, bring gun owners into the conversation and bring them to the table in order to work on reducing gun deaths happening across the country while including them in the solutions. Troy, I'm just going to say Troy, was unwilling to bring one particular gun owner into the conversation or to the table. She declined to be interviewed for this story. Despite Troy's attempts to stake out a moderate and centrist position, an investigation by the Second Amendment Foundation's Investigative Journalist Project found that 97% is nothing more than a run-of-the-mill anti-gun group, albeit one with better messaging and PR. Some of the findings include 97% has supported an assault weapons ban. That's a ban on semi-automatic centerfire rifles. That's all basically overwhelming majority of long guns that are out there. 97% supported a standard capacity magazine ban. Not high capacity, standard capacity magazine. It's anything above 10 rounds, and in some cases they want to limit it down to 5 rounds. 97% has supported the bump stock ban. 97% supported expanding red flag laws. That's unconstitutional gun confiscation laws. 97% supported permits to carry firearms. Okay, I'm wondering about that one. Or maybe they don't support permitless carry. Maybe that's what they mean. 97% supports permits to purchase firearms. We've talked about those in places like New Jersey, where some people have had to wait years in order to get approved just to be able to purchase a firearm. 97. Also they support permits to possess a firearm. They've supported the loss of the Second Amendment rights upon conviction of a violent misdemeanor. I'm sorry, but if a crime is so violent that it's so bad that you lose a fundamental right, it ought to be a felony. Just saying. They support mandatory storage laws, which would lead to home inspections by police. They support mandatory background checks without acknowledging they would lead to mandatory firearm registration. They claim the Second Amendment is overprotected. They claims that rapid fire guns are not used for hunting or home defense, but does define the term. Doesn't define the term. Anyway, the point is that this is a group that is a liberal. It's basically it's an anti-gun group, and I'm just going to tell you. Here's how you know that a group is an anti-gun group. If they cannot simply say that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, then they're an anti-gun group. Because that's what it is. That's what the Constitution says. Constitution says shall not be infringed. I don't know what the debate is. I don't know why we're debating whether or not we should be infringing on our rights when we know. Brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Make sure you use discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today at a discount. Our first one, by the way, all of our parting shots today come to you by the Babylon Bee. You've heard about the run-in there in Baltimore, the collision with the bridge, where I believe we're somewhere around 30 or 40 have now been pronounced dead. Well, it's one of many transportation failures that have taken place under the watch of Director of Transportation or Secretary of Transportation, Mr. Buttigieg. But hey, leave it to him to find the silver lining in this cloud. It says Buttigieg praises cargo ship for helping dismantle racism in American roads. Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. Oh, and then there's you may have heard about the debit cards that are being handed out that can go up to a family of 4. A family of migrants now can get up to $1,400 a month in prepaid debit cards. They're in New York. Which, by the way, is more than a cent. Anyway, but, in case that's not enough for the migrants, New York City mayor assures migrants that if they run out of prepaid debit cards, they can just rob Americans directly, which, by the way, is what they're doing anyway. Then finally, you've heard about Sean P. Diddy Combs, who has been investigated. I'm pretty sure they finally found him, but he was under investigation, and they were searching his home, seeking evidence relating to having sex or an underage sex ring. And that has immediately qualified him to be hired as the new president of Nickelodeon Studios. Oh, you guys don't know where that came from. You obviously have not been following the news relating to all of the child sex stuff and whatnot that has been going on over there at Nickelodeon, but I digress. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's program. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program. Please remember to support our sponsors. You've got Hitman Industries, Hog Holsters, where you can get a discount using the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. And finally, all the tactical gear you could be looking for, except the gun, you will find at uscombatgear.com. And with that, we're going to call it a day. We will be back tomorrow on Throat Punch Thursday Once again, we appreciate you liking and sharing the program, encouraging your friends to do the same. And, well, I guess we will see you mañana. Y'all take care.